unexpected inheritance. Alex Thornton's life had always been ordinary. At 28, he worked as a data analyst in a nondescript office building in Chicago, his day a blur of spreadsheets and coffee runs. But on a rainy Tuesday in April, everything changed. The message came through his personal tablet, its urgency signaled by a series of insistent beeps. Alex frowned, tapping the screen to reveal a holographic projection of a stern-looking alien. The being's skin was a pale lavender, its eyes large and entirely black. "Greetings, Alexander Thornton," the alien said, its voice a melodious trill. "I am Zach Law, legal representative of the late Jorth Thornton of Zyria. I regret to inform you of your great-uncle's passing." Alex blinked, confusion etching lines across his forehead. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I don't have a great-uncle, let alone an alien one." Zach Law's expression didn't change. "I assure you there is no error. Jorth Thornton was indeed your great-uncle. Though he left Earth long before your birth, he has named you as his sole heir." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Alex struggled to process this information. An alien great-uncle, an inheritance. It was too fantastical to be true. Yet, as Zach Saylor continued to speak, providing details that only a legitimate legal representative would know, Alex found himself unable to deny the reality of the situation. "What exactly am I inheriting?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zor's eyes glimmered. "Jorth Thornton was a man of considerable means. You are to inherit his entire estate, including his vast wealth, his holdings on Zyria, and his position within Zyran society." Alex leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling. His position? What does that mean? "Your great-uncle held a seat on the Saphirian High Council," Zach Law explained. "It is a position of great influence and responsibility. As his heir, you are expected to assume this role." The enormity of the situation began to dawn on Alex. This wasn't just about money or property. He was being asked to step into a completely world, to take on responsibilities he couldn't even begin to comprehend. "There is one more thing," Zach added, a note of hesitation in his voice. "As part of Zyrian custom, and to solidify your position, you are also inheriting your great-uncle's betrothal agreement." Alex's eyebrows shot up. "Betrothal agreement? You mean a marriage?" Zach Law nodded solemnly. "Yes, to lie fact daughter of one of Zia's most prominent families. The union is considered crucial for maintaining political balance on our world." For a long moment, Alex sat in stunned silence. His mundane life had been upended in the span of a few minutes. He was now the heir to an alien fortune, expected to take on a political role on a distant planet, and engaged to a woman he had never met. "This is a lot to take in," Alex finally managed to say. "I understand," Zaka replied, his tone softening slightly. "You have much to consider. However, time is of the essence. Syrian law requires you to claim your inheritance within 1 Earth month, or it will be forfeit." Alex's mind raced. A month? How could he possibly make such a life-altering decision in such a short time? He thought of his job, his small apartment, his few friends. None of it seemed to hold much weight against the incredible opportunity and responsibility that had just been laid at his feet. "What if I say no?" Alex asked, more out of curiosity than any real intention to refuse. Zach Law's expression grew grave. "The consequences would be significant. Your great-uncle's seat on the High Council would likely fall to a rival faction, potentially destabilizing Zyrian politics. The KAC family would lose face, which could have far-reaching implications. And of course you would forfeit a considerable fortune and the chance to make a real difference in our world." Alex took a deep breath, trying to center himself. "And if I say yes, then we would arrange for your immediate transport to Zephyria." Zaka replied, "You would be given a crash course in our culture and politics, and officially presented to the High Council. Your betrothal to Liva would be announced, with the wedding to follow within a Zhuan year." It was overwhelming, terrifying, and yet exhilarating. Alex had always felt like he was meant for something more, something beyond the confines of his ordinary life. Now that something had quite literally come calling from the stars. "I need some time to think," Alex said. Zaka nodded. "Of course you have 48 Earth hours to give me your decision. After that we must begin preparations. If you choose to accept." As the holographic projection faded, Alex sat back in his chair, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. He looked around his small office cubicle, at the familiar faces of his co-workers, at the life he had always Known then, he closed his eyes and tried to imagine the alien world of Zephyria, the responsibilities and opportunities that awaited him there over the next 2 days. Alex barely slept. He researched everything he could find about Zephyria, which wasn't much given the planet's relatively recent contact with Earth. He made lists of pros and cons, talked to his few close friends, sworn to secrecy, and even consulted a lawyer to verify the legitimacy of his inheritance. In the end, as the 48-hour deadline approached, Alex found himself staring out the window of his apartment, watching the familiar Chicago skyline. He thought about the life he'd led, so far safe, predictable, unremarkable. Then he thought about the life that was being offered to him. Challenging, unknown, full of potential. With trembling fingers, Alex picked up his tablet and contacted Zachor. The alien's face appeared impassive as ever. "Have you reached a decision, Alexander Thornton?" Zach Law asked. Alex took a deep breath, feeling as though he stood on the precipice of a new world in a way. He supposed he did. "Yes," he said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "I accept the inheritance, all of it." Zor's expression didn't change, but Alex thought he detected a note of approval in the alien's voice. "Very well. We will begin preparations immediately. Pack lightly, Alexander Thornton. Your new life awaits." As the connection ended, Alex looked around his apartment at the trappings of his old life. In a matter of days, he would be leaving it all behind for an adventure beyond his wildest dreams. He was terrified, excited, and filled with a sense of purpose he had never known before. Whatever lay ahead on Zephyria, political intrigue, an arranged marriage, a chance to make a real difference. Alex knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same again. Journey to a new world. The departure date arrived. With startling swiftness, Alex stood at the Chicago Interplanetary Spaceport, a sleek, futuristic complex that had sprung up on the outskirts of the city in the years following Earth's first contact with alien civilizations. He clutched a small duffel bag containing the few personal items he decided to bring. His mind still reeling from the whirlwind of the past month. Finally, boarding call for Zephyria-bound shuttle XC 729, a computerized voice announced over the PA system. Alex took a deep breath, cast one last glance at the familiar Chicago skyline, and stepped onto the boarding platform. The shuttle was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Its interior was a seamless blend of organic curves and advanced technology. As he settled into his seat, he noticed there were no windows. Instead, holograph-grade displays flickered to life around him, showing a real-time view of the spaceport outside. "Welcome aboard, Herr Thornton," a melodious voice said. Alex turned to see a Zerian attendant, her lavender-skinned, shimmering slightly in the soft light of the cabin. "We're honored to have you join us. The journey to Zeria will take approximately 3 Earth days. Please make yourself comfortable." As the shuttle lifted off, Alex felt a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. The holographic displays now showed the Earth falling away beneath them, growing smaller until it was just a blue marble suspended in the vastness of space. Alex swallowed hard, the reality of his decision finally sinking in. Over the next 3 days, Alex immersed himself in learning about Soria. He studied language modules, cultural briefings, and political primers provided by Zachor. The Zerian legal representative had true to his word, arranging for an intensive crash course to prepare Alex for his new role. On the 3rd day, as Alex was struggling through a particularly complex piece of Zerian legislation, a soft chime sounded throughout the shuttle. The holographic displays flickered, and suddenly Alex found himself gazing upon an alien world. Zephyria was breathtaking from orbit. It appeared as a swirling marble of deep purples and vibrant greens, with vast glittering oceans that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. As the shuttle began its descent, Alex could make out sprawling cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, their spires reaching towards the sky like crystalline trees. The landing was so smooth that Alex barely felt it. As the shuttle doors opened, he was hit by a wave of warm, sweet-scented air. He stepped out onto a platform overlooking the vast cityscape, his eyes wide with wonder. "Welcome to Zephyria, Herr Thornton," a familiar voice said. Alex turned to see Zach Law approaching, flanked by a small delegation of Zerian. "I trust your journey was comfortable." Alex nodded, still somewhat overwhelmed. "It was incredible. I've never seen anything like This place, Zach Law's expression remained impassive, but there was a hint of pride in his voice. Superior is indeed unique in the galaxy. Come, there is much to show you, and time is of the essence. The High Council awaits your presentation. As they moved through the city, Alex struggled to take it all in. The architecture was a seamless blend of technology and nature, with buildings that seemed to breathe and move. Sarian of all shapes and sizes went about their business, some gliding by on personal hover platforms, others walking on iridescent pathways that shifted and changed with each step. This is the capital city of Lyra, Zach Law explained, as they traveled in a sleek, silent vehicle. It is here that the High Council convenes, and where you will reside. Alex nodded, trying to process everything. And Lyra, when will I meet her for the first time? Zach Law's impassive facade cracked slightly, revealing what might have been amusement. Patience, her Thornton, all in due time. First we must present you to the High Council and begin your official induction into Zirum society. The vehicle came to a stop before an enormous structure that seemed to be made entirely of living crystal. It pulsed with an inner light, its facets reflecting the city around it in a dazzling display. The Hall of Convergence, Zach Law announced, the seat of Zarian government and your new workplace, so to speak. As they entered the building, Alex felt a strange tingling sensation wash over him. He looked down to see his clothes shimmering, transforming into flowing robes of deep blue and silver, a little trick of Zarian technology, Zachar explained, noticing Alex's surprise. Proper attire is crucial in the High Council chambers. They proceeded through vast halls and winding corridors, each more breathtaking than the last. Finally, they arrived at a set of towering doors that seemed to be made of living light. Are you ready, Herr Thornton? Zach Law asked, his tone serious. Alex took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. As ready as I'll ever be. The doors swung open, silently revealing a circular chamber filled with Sarian in elaborate robes. At the center stood a raised dais, upon which sat 12 ornate chairs. 11 were occupied by Shirin of varying ages and appearances. The 12th, Alex realized with a start, must be meant for him. As Alex stepped into the chamber, a hush fell over the assembled Syrians. He could feel their eyes upon him, curious, assessing, perhaps even skeptical. He fought the urge to fidget, reminding himself of the crash course in Syrian etiquette he'd received on the journey. A tall, regal-looking Zephyrin rose from the central chair on the dais. Welcome, Alexander. Foreign of Earth, she said, her voice resonating throughout the chamber. I am High Councillor Vexera. We have been eagerly awaiting your arrival. Alex bowed deeply as he had been instructed. Thank you, High Councillor. I am honored to be here. Vexera nodded approvingly. You stand before us as the heir to Jor Thornton, a respected member of this council, and a bridge between our worlds. Do you understand the weight of the responsibility you have inherited? Alex swallowed hard, but when he spoke his voice was steady. I do, High Councillor. While I may be new to your world, I pledge to serve Zapia and its people to the best of my abilities. A murmur ran through the assembled Zirian. Vexera raised a hand and silence fell once more. Your words are appreciated, Herr Thornton. However, words alone are not enough. You must prove yourself worthy of the seat you've inherited. Are you prepared to face the challenges that lie ahead? Alex straightened, meeting Vexera's gaze. I am High Councillor. I may not know all of your ways yet, but I am a quick learner, and I am committed to this role. Vex's expression softened slightly. Very well, let us proceed with the rite of induction. What followed was a blur of ceremonial gestures, solemn oaths, and rituals that Alex only partially understood. He did his best to follow Zor's subtle cues, hoping he wasn't making any grave cultural missteps. As the ceremony neared its end, Vexera spoke. Again, there is one final matter to address: the union between our newest council member and Lyra Caps of the esteemed Caps family. The chamber doors opened once more, and Alex's breath caught in his throat. A young Juran woman entered, her movements graceful and assured. Her skin was a pale, shimmering blue, and her eyes were a deep, mesmerizing violet. This, Alex realized, must be Lyra. As Lyra approached the dais, Alex felt a strange mix of emotions: anxiety, certainly, but also a surprising flutter of anticipation. She was strikingly beautiful, even by alien standards, but it was the intelligence and strength he saw in her eyes that truly captivated him. Lyra Vexera intoned, "Do you accept this union with Alexander Thornton for the good of Zephyria and the continued harmony between our peoples?" Lyra's gaze met Alex's, and for a moment he felt as though she were looking directly into his soul. Then she turned to Vexera and spoke, her voice clear and melodious. "I do, High Counselor, I accept this union, and all that it tolls." Vexera nodded solemnly. "And you, Alexander Thornton, do you accept this union with Lyva, pledging yourself not only to her, but to the future of Zapier?" Alex took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of this moment. He looked at Lyra, seeing in her eyes a mix of determination and was that curiosity. He realized that she was probably just as unsure about this arrangement as he was. "I do," Alex said, his voice strong and clear. "I accept this union and pledge myself to Lyra and to Ziria." A cheer went up from the assembled Zians, the solemn atmosphere of the chamber giving way to celebration as Alex and Lyra were ushered towards each other. He felt as though he was stepping into a new chapter of his life, one filled with unknown challenges and possibilities. Lyra extended her hand, and Alex took it, marveling at the strange tingling sensation of her touch. She leaned in close, her voice a whisper that only he could hear. "Welcome to Zephyria, Alexander Thornton," she said, a hint of amusement in her tone. "I hope you're ready for quite an adventure." As Alex looked into her eyes, he felt a smile tugging at his lips. Whatever lay ahead, political intrigue, cultural misunderstandings, or interstellar crisis, he knew that with life by his side, it would certainly be an adventure worth having. "I'm ready," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "Let's face it together." And with that, Alexander Thornton, former data analyst from Chicago, took his first true steps into his new life as a member of the Zyran High Council and betrothed to an alien princess. The journey ahead would be challenging, but as he stood there hand in hand with Lyra, he felt ready to face whatever the universe might throw his way. Navigating alien politics, the days following Alex's induction into the High Council were a whirlwind of activity. Each morning, he awoke in his new quarters, a sprawling suite in a tower that seemed to be made of living crystal, to find his schedule packed with meetings, briefings, and ceremonial appearances. Zach Law had become his constant companion, a guide through the labyrinthine world of Aryan politics. "Today, Herr Thornton," the legal representative said as he entered Alex's quarters, "you have your first official council session. Are you prepared?" Alex straightened his robes, which still felt strange against his skin. "As prepared as I can be, I suppose. Any last minute advice?" Saxel Lord's expression remained impassive, but Alex thought he detected a hint of concern in those large dark eyes. "Remember, every word carries weight here. Speak carefully, and when in doubt, listen more than you speak." As they made their way to the council chambers, Alex's mind raced. He had spent every spare moment studying Zirian law and customs, but he still felt woefully unprepared. The complex web of alliances, rivalries, and unspoken rules that govern Syrian politics was daunting, to say the least. The council chamber was just as impressive as Alex remembered. The 11 other council members were already seated when he arrived, their gazes following him as he took his place. High Counselor Vexera nodded to him, her expression unreadable. "Let us begin," she intoned, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Our first order of business is the trade dispute with the Kinnor system." What followed was a heated debate that left Alex's head spinning. The counselors spoke rapidly, their words laden with references and nuances that he struggled to follow. He remained silent, heeding Zach Law's advice to listen and observe. As the session wore on, Alex began to pick up on the underlying currents of the discussion. There were clear factions within the council, those who favored aggressive expansion, others who prioritized diplomatic solutions, and still others whose motivations remained obscure. Suddenly Vexera turned to him. "Herr Thornton, you have been quiet. What are your thoughts on this matter?" Alex felt all eyes turned to him. He took a deep breath, remembering his crash course in Zirian diplomatic speech. "High Counselor, esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice steadier than he felt as the newest member of his council, "I hesitate to speak without fully understanding the complexities of the situation. However, if I may, I would like to ask, have we considered approaching Mi'kmaq from a perspective of mutual benefit rather than competition?" A murmur ran through the chamber, Some councillors nodded approvingly, while others frowned. Vex's expression remained neutral, but there was a glint of interest in her eyes. An interesting perspective, Thornton, she said. Perhaps you would care to elaborate. And so, drawing on his background in data analysis and his crash course in interstellar economics, Alex laid out a proposal. He suggested a trade agreement that would allow both Xeria and the Kryna to benefit, playing to the strengths of each system while addressing their respective weaknesses. As he spoke, Alex could see the mood in the chamber shifting. Even those who had initially seemed dismissive were now listening intently when he finished. There was a moment of silence before the chamber erupted in discussion. A novel approach, one councillor said, nodding approvingly. Risky, another countered, but potentially very rewarding. Vexera raised a hand, silencing the chamber here. Thornton, your proposal has merit. We will take it under advisement for now. Let us move on to the next item on our agenda. As the session continued, Alex felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had passed his first test, it seemed, but he knew this was only the beginning. Later than that evening, as Alex was reviewing the day's events in his quarters, there was a soft chime at his door. To his surprise, it was Lyra, who entered, her presence immediately filling the room with a subtle, shimmering energy. I heard about your performance in the council today, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. Quite impressive. For your first session. Alex felt a flush of pride, mixed with a strange flutter in his stomach at Lyra's presence. Thank you, he said. I'm still feeling my way through all of this. There's so much to learn. Lyra moved to the window, gazing out at the glittering Cape of Laura. You're doing better than you think, she said. But be careful, your success today will have made you both allies and enemies. Alex joined her at the window, acutely aware of her proximity. I'm beginning to realize that everything here is a delicate balance, he said. One wrong move could have said it all. Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes intense. Exactly, which is why I'm here. I think it's time we got to know each other better, Alex. If we're to navigate this world together, we need to trust each other implicitly. Alex nodded, feeling the mix of nervousness and excitement. I'd like that, he said. Where do we start? Lyra's smile widened. How about a tour of the city? There's much about Cytheria that can't be learned from data files and council sessions. And so, under the cover of night, Alex and Lyra slipped out of the tower. Lyra led him through winding streets and secret passages, showing him a side of Laura he hadn't seen before. They visited bustling night markets, where alien delicacies sizzled in glowing stalls, watched street performers manipulate light and sound in mesmerizing displays, and stood atop a hidden observation deck that offered a breathtaking view of the entire city. As they walked, they taught Alex shared stories of his life on Earth, his dreams and fears. Lyra in turn opened up about the pressures of being a Kivak, the weight of expectations that had been placed on her shoulders since birth. I never expected to find myself in an arranged marriage with an Earthling, Lyra admitted, as they stood watching the twin moons of Zapia rise over the horizon. But I'm glad it's you, Alex. I think we might just make a good team. Alex felt a warmth spread through him at her words. I think so too, he said softly. As they made their way back to the tower, Alex realized that something had shifted between them. The awkwardness of their arranged betrothal was giving way to a genuine connection, a partnership born of shared challenges and mutual respect. But their moment of connection was shattered as they approached the tower. Zap's Law was waiting for them, his usually impassive face creased with worry. Her Thornton, Lady Cox, he said urgently, you must come quickly. There's been an incident. The Crawl delegation, they've been attacked. Alex and Lyra exchanged a look of alarm. The delicate balance of Xerian politics had just been violently upset, and Alex had a sinking feeling that his proposal in the council session might have played a part in it. As they hurried after Zach, or Alex's mind raced. He had wanted an adventure, a chance to make a difference. Now it seemed he was about to be tested in ways he could never have imagined. But with Lyra by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The political intrigue of Xeria was about to reach a boiling point. And Alex Thornton, the Earthling here, was now at the center of it all. Crisis and cooperation. The council chamber was in an uproar when Alex and Lyra arrived. Councillors argued heatedly, their voices rising above one another in a cacophony of accusations and demands. High Councillor Vexera stood at the center, her usual composure strained as she attempted to maintain order. Silence. Vex's voice cut through the chaos, and the room fell quiet. Her gaze fell on Alex and Lyra as they entered her Thornton Lady KX. "Thank you for joining us promptly. The situation is grave." Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding. "What exactly has happened?" High Counselor Vex's expression was grim. "The Craw delegation was attacked en route to their accommodations. 2 delegates were injured, one critically. The attackers left behind a message claiming to be from a Juran isolationist group." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "And my proposal from earlier today is being cited as the catalyst for the attack." Vex Eric confirmed the isolationists' claim that any further involvement with the Kryna will lead to the downfall of Xerian culture. Alex's mind raced. His first major contribution to the council, and it had inadvertently sparked a violent incident. He felt Lyra's hand on his arm, a silent show of report. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, fighting to keep his voice steady. Vex's gaze swept the room. "That is what we must decide. The Kynor are demanding an explanation and threatening to cut all ties with Sephiria. Some on this council," her eyes flickered to a group of stern-faced councillors, "are advocating for a hardline approach, suggesting we sever ties ourselves before the Kynor can do so. That would be a mistake." Laura spoke up, her voice clear and confident. "The isolationists win if we allow this incident to drive a wedge between our peoples." Alex nodded in agreement. "We need to show both the Craw and our own people that this attack doesn't represent Sephiria." But how? For hours the council debated, proposals were made and discarded, tensions rose and fell. Alex found himself drawing on every ounce of diplomatic skill had learned both on Earth and in his crash course on Xerian politics as the twin suns of Xeria began to set, casting the council chamber in a purple-orange glow. Alex had an idea. He turned to Lyra, speaking in a low voice. "What if we go to the Kynor ourselves, not as representatives of the council, but as us and Earthling and a Zephyron working together?" Lyra's eyes widened. "It's risky," she said. "We be operating outside official channels, but it might just work." They presented their plan to the council. It was met with skepticism from some, outright hostility from others. But Vexera, after a long moment of consideration, gave her approval. "Go," she said, "but understand that if you fail, the council will disavow any knowledge of your actions." With that ominous warning, Alex and Lyra set out. They traveled, not in an official vessel, but in a small nondescript shuttle piloted by Lyra herself. As they left Sophia's atmosphere, Alex marveled at Lyra's skill. "Where did you learn to fly like this?" he asked. Lyra smiled, a mischievous glint in her eye. "There's a lot you don't know about me yet, Alex. I wasn't always destined for political marriage." Their journey to the Kynor ship was tense. Alex spent the time studying everything he could about Kynor culture and customs, determined not to make any missteps. As they approached the massive Kryna vessel, a gruff voice came over the comm system and identified craft. "State your business, or be destroyed." Lyra responded calmly. "This is Lady Lyra Kex of Zafira, accompanied by Herr Alexander Thornton of Earth. We come seeking peaceful dialogue with the Kynor delegation." There was a long pause before the voice returned. "You may dock in Bay 3. Any sign of hostility will be met with immediate force." As they disembarked, Alex and Lyra were met by a contingent of Kryna guards. The Kryna were imposing figures, tall and broad, with mottled grey skin and forearms. Their eyes set deep in their faces regarded Alex and Lyra with clear suspicion. "This way," one of the guards grunted, meeting them through winding corridors. They were brought to a large chamber where the Craw delegation awaited. At the center sat Gra, the lead delegate, his injured arm in a sling. "You have nerve coming here," Gra rumbled. "Why should we listen to anything you have to say?" Alex stepped forward, bowing deeply in the Khmer fashion. "Honored Gra, we come not as official representatives, but as individuals seeking to right or wrong. What happened on Xeria was a tragedy, one that does not reflect the true spirit of our people." Lyra joined him. "We understand your anger and your suspicion, but we ask that you give us a chance to show you the real Zafira, not the distorted image presented by a handful of extremists." For hours, Alex and Lyra talked with the core delegation. They listened to the Kynor's grievances, offered sincere apologies, and proposed ways to move forward. Alex drew on his original trade proposal, refining It based on the direct input of the Kenor. As the discussion progressed, Alex could see the hostility in Garthar's eyes, slowly giving way to curiosity, and then to cautious interest. "Your words are not without merit," Grothar finally said. "But words at easy, what assurances can you offer?" Alex and Lyra exchanged a glance. This was the moment of truth. "We offer ourselves," Alex said, "as a sign of good faith. We will remain here as guests of the Kriner, while a joint Xerian-Kriner task force investigates the attack and brings the perpetrators to justice." Grok's eyes widened in surprise. "You would willingly remain as our guests?" Lyra nodded firmly. "We would, to show that we are committed to peace and cooperation between our people." There was a long moment of silence as Grothar considered their offer. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. We accept your proposal. You will remain here, and we will work together to resolve this crisis." As word of their agreement was sent back to Zephyria, Alex felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had averted an immediate diplomatic disaster, but the real work was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Alex and lived among the Kriner, learning their ways and helping to facilitate the joint investigation. It was challenging, often frustrating work, but slowly progress was made. The isolationists were identified and arrested. Their plot exposed. The Kriner, impressed by Alex and Lyra's dedication, began to soften their stance. Talks of trade and cultural exchange resumed, this time with a new foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As they worked, Alex and Lyra grew closer. The pressure of their situation, the constant need to present a united front, forged a bond between them that went beyond their arranged battle. They learned to anticipate each other's thoughts, to communicate with a glance or a subtle gesture. One evening, as they stood on an observation deck of the Kenor ship, watching the stars wheel by, Lyra turned to Alex. "You know," she said softly, "when I first heard I was to be betrothed to an Earthling, I was less than thrilled." Alex chuckled. "I can imagine. I wasn't exactly jumping for joy either." Lyra smiled, her violet eyes shimmering in the starlight. "But now I'm glad it was you, Alex. We make a good team." Alex felt a warmth spread through him. He reached out, taking Lyra's hand in his. "We do, don't we?" As they stood there hand in hand, Alex realized that somewhere along the way, amidst the political intrigue and interstellar crisis, he had fallen in love with Lyra, with Zephyr. With this new life, he had stumbled into. The crisis wasn't over. There would be more challenges ahead, more tests of their newfound partnership. But as Alex looked at Lyra, he knew that together they could face anything the universe might throw their way. Their adventure was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning anew. The return to Zephyria was met with a mixture of celebration and trepidation. As their shuttle descended through the iridescent atmosphere, Alex and Lyra could see crowds gathered in the streets of Lyra, their faces turned scold in anticipation. "Are you ready for this?" Lyra asked, her hand finding Alex's as they prepared to disembark. Alex took a deep breath, squeezing her hand gently. "As long as we're together, I'm ready for anything." The moment they stepped off the shuttle, they were engulfed in a sea of color and sound. Xerian cheered, waving banners and throwing shimmering petal into the air. The atmosphere was electric, a far cry from the tension that had permeated the city when they left. High Counselor Vexera was waiting for them at the base of the ramp, her usual stoic expression softened by what might have been pride. "Her Thornton Lady Cax," she said, her voice carrying over the crowd's Zephyria welcomes. "You home." The days that followed were a whirlwind of debriefings, public appearances, and private meetings. Alex and Lyra recounted their experiences with the Kenor in detail, emphasizing the lessons learned and the bridges built. Their success had not only averted a diplomatic crisis, but had opened new avenues for cooperation and understanding between the two civilizations. In a private meeting with Vexera, Alex and Lyra proposed a series of reforms aimed at promoting greater cultural exchange and understanding both within Zapia and with other worlds. "Your experiences have given you a unique perspective," Vexera said, considering their proposals. "Perhaps it's time for Zephyria to embrace a new era of openness." As the dust settled and life began to return to a semblance of normality, Alex and Lyra found themselves facing a new challenge. Their impending marriage, what had started as a political arrangement, had blossomed into something real and profound. During their shared trials one evening, as they walked through the bioluminescent gardens of the KAC estate, Lyra turned to Alex, her expression serious. Alex, I know our betrothal wasn't of our choosing, but after everything we've been through, I can't imagine facing the future with anyone else by my side. Alex felt his heart swell. He took both of Lyra's hands in his, marveling at how natural it felt now. Lyra, when I first came to Xeria, I was lost, overwhelmed by aware. I didn't understand. But you've been my anchor, my partner, my home. I love you not because of any arrangement, but because of who you are. Lyra's eyes shimmered with emotion. I love you too, Alex. So, shall we do this for real this time? Not just for politics or tradition, but for us. Alex grinned, pulling her close. Absolutely, let's show the universe what an Earthling and a Zephyran can do together. Their wedding was a spectacle unlike anything Xeria had ever seen it. Blended Earth and Zhuran traditions, symbolizing the union not just of two individuals, but of two worlds. A ceremony was broad across both planets, watched by billions as they exchanged vows, their words resonating through the grand hall. Alex and Lyra knew that this was more than just a personal commitment. It was a promise to continue working towards understanding, cooperation, and peace. In the years that followed, Alex and Lyra became a formidable team, both in the High Council and beyond. They spearheaded initiatives to promote cultural exchange, established educational programs to foster understanding between different species, and worked tirelessly to build a more open, inclusive Xeria. Alex's unique perspective as an Earthling continued to bring fresh ideas to Xerian politics, while Lyra's deep understanding of her people's traditions helped bridge the gap between the old and the new. Together, they navigated the complex waters of interstellar diplomacy, facing each new challenge with the strength of their partnership. Their greatest test came 5 years after their wedding, when a long-dormant conflict between two neighboring systems threatened to erupt into full-scale war. Drawing on their experiences with the Kriner, Alex and Lyra proposed a bold plan for mediation. For months, they worked tirelessly, shuttling between WAS, listening to grievances, and proposing solutions. It was grueling, often disheartening work, but they persevered. In the end, their efforts paid off. A peace accord was signed, averting a war that could have destabilized the entire sector. As they stood on the balcony of their Lion home, watching the celebration fireworks light up the night sky, Lyra leaned into Alex's embrace. Did you ever imagine, when you first received that message on Earth, that this would be your life? Alex chuckled, shaking his head. Never in a million years. But I wouldn't change a thing. Lyra smiled, her violet eyes reflecting the colorful bursts in the sky. Nor would I. You know, there's an old Xerian saying the greatest adventures begin with a single step into the unknown. Well, Alex said, pulling her closer, I'd say we've had quite the adventure so far, and something tells me it's far from over. As if in response to his words, their communicators chimed simultaneously, a message from bearer. Urgent council meeting, new diplomatic situation developing in the Andromeda Galaxy. Alex and Lyra exchanged a look, equal parts excitement and determination in their eyes. Without a word, they turned and headed back inside, ready to face whatever new challenge awaited them. For Alex Thornton, the Earthling, who had inherited an alien fortune and found so much more, and Lyra Fax, the Zephyran, who had opened her heart to an outsider and discovered a partner for life. This was just another step in their ongoing adventure together. They were not just navigating the complex world of interstellar politics, they were shaping it one challenge at a time. As they entered the council chambers hand in hand, they knew that whatever the universe had in store for them, they would face it as they have faced everything else since that fateful day when an ordinary Earthling received an extraordinary inheritance, together with love, determination, and an unwavering commitment to building a better future for all. The end of one chapter, but merely the beginning of countless more, when the epic tale of Alex and Lyra, the Earthling, and the Zephyran who dared to rewrite the stars